Hi, everyone. It's me, Krylios, Team Rayceen Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is the goddess of DC, Rayceen Pendarvis. Hey, Rayceen.
Hey everybody, greetings and salutations.
Listen, we are so excited today because we have a special guest with us. We have Councilmember Christina Henderson joining us once again on the Team Racing YouTube channel. Hello, Councilmember. Oh, you're
You're
muted. You
muted.
said.
You would think I would know how to do this after a year and a half. Good afternoon, all of you.
It is so great to have you here. Always such a pleasure. And for viewers, you can check out our channel to find previous interviews with Council Member Christina Henderson. Such a pleasure having you back here with us today. How has it been so far, being a council member?
It has been a whirlwind experience for the past 7 months. Every day is a different day, but it's been exciting. And I'm just honored to have the privilege of serving residents in the district.
Certainly. Thank you so much for being here with us. Now, you have put forward the bill for ranked choice voting here in the district, for ranked choice voting. And this is great because we spoke about it so much in the run up to the election, especially here on this channel. So for those of our viewers who are not really sure what it is, could you go ahead and give them a little bit more information about ranked choice voting?
Sure. So another way to think about ranked choice voting is instant runoff voting. In a traditional voting sense, in some jurisdictions, if a person does not receive 50% of the vote, the top 2 vote getters go to a runoff, you hold a brand new election, and then one of those 2 folks would win in the end. Ranked choice voting or instant runoff voting is better because you don't have to hold a new election. So what happens is voters have the opportunity to rank up to 5 different candidates in choice of preference. And at the end of all of that, once the votes are tabulated, if no candidate has received 50% of the vote, the voter with the lowest number of vote totals, voters who voted for that individual first, will have their votes redistributed to the other remaining candidates. And that process continues until you have someone who reaches 50% threshold. So the whole idea is that, 1, we're electing people who have a majority of support from the community, and 2, that voters have an opportunity to make sure that their full voice is heard. So in my race, which you all covered so well, there were 24 candidates, right?
Can you believe it?
24 people on the ballot. Statistically, there was no way for anyone to get 50%, and that is exactly what happened. I didn't get 50, nor did Councilmember Robert White, who was the incumbent in that race. Ranked choice voting would have basically flipped the system so that people feel very strongly that the person who won is actually someone who they supported.
Certainly. And I know that for, many individuals, they feel like, their voice isn't being heard because, when those voting numbers come out and, this person won with 17% or not, they kind of feel like, well, the rest of us didn't really, vote for that. So
Right.
That would certainly, give that, because during last year's election cycle, as you pointed out, we asked all of the candidates in your race about ranked choice voting, and in our interviews and forums, they were about equally split, and if they wanted to have it or not. Is that indicative of anything? And what would be the benefit of having the ranked choice voting if there was another contest with over 20 candidates?
Well, so I would say lots of people don't like change. Anytime you talk about doing something different than what folks have always done before, it is always met with skepticism.
Yeah.
How is this going to work? How can I benefit from it? Are there going to be people who are left out, who don't have who don't understand? So, one of the great things about our bill called the Voice Act is that we are funding a very strong voter education campaign, because we have learned from other jurisdictions that this can only work as well as voters understand it, and as well as voters are willing to exercise their full voice in terms of participating in the process. So, I think that there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, I've heard about ranked choice voting, but I don't really understand it. So we're trying to, this is part of the debate, having conversation, educating people about this. And then we'll see what happens in terms of the rest of, my colleagues going forward. But to your second point, I do feel like in DC, we're going to see competitive races going forward. We have the Fair Elections Program now, which is public financing for campaigns, which is doing what it was designed to do, which is to lower the barriers for people to be able to participate who aren't financially wealthy or who are not necessarily connected to the wealthy, to be able to actually, put on races that are competitive. And I think we'll see in this next year, some of the council races will be highly competitive. I don't know if they're gonna have 24 people, but they are most certainly gonna have more than 2. And, I think in that question, like, we have to ask ourselves, if we're gonna continue to have competitive elections like this, is the way that we select our people still working for us?
Yeah, certainly. Well, how long do you think this process will, take to be implemented if the bill goes through and it's certain, like, like this will be a thing? What does that timeline look like?
So the way that the legislation is written, if we are successful and stay on all the right timelines, et cetera, this wouldn't happen before the 2024 election. So for all the people who are saying, well, you want it now, you want to change the system, I'm actually putting myself up in this system, because in 4 years, I will be up for re-election. And if this is the case, I will be running in a ranked choice voting scenario for the first time. So I'm not going to decide to do something, I'm not going to put this out there for somebody else and not do it for myself. And so I just feel like that underscores how serious I do believe that this could work. But again, this is not a surefire deal. There are a lot of people who are like, you shouldn't even hold a hearing on this, or this, that, and the third. First of all, I am all into, let's have a debate. Let's have a conversation. If not this, then what else? Is our current system of voting really working for all DC residents? We need to talk about that. We should really have a good conversation about that. So, the council is currently on recess. We can't hold any hearings on legislation that wasn't already previously exempt from the process. So, this is a conversation that will continue into the fall. We'll see if the Committee on Judiciary does decide to hold a hearing on it, and then we'll kind of have to see what happens from there. So, for all the people who are kind of freaking out, like, oh my God, you're going to do this for next year? No. 2024. And then there's still a lot of time and opportunity for folks to weigh in, because we're just getting started.
How about that? And talk about getting started. How does the fiscal year budget look for 2022?
Whew. I'm tired. No, I mean, I think about when this time last year, or even earlier at the beginning of the pandemic, where I think no one really knew what was going to happen economically in the city. I think there was a lot of concern that we might have to take, austerity measures in some ways to ensure that we can continue to pay, DC government employees, continue to provide social services and housing to DC residents. And what we saw was that, residents fared very differently in this pandemic. Some of us did very well, kept our jobs, just worked from home, but didn't see any, demonstrable difference in terms of our income coming in. And some of our neighbors struggled. They lost their jobs. We have the eviction moratorium in place, but even still, like, they struggle, right? And you have had conversations with like places like Martha's Table or Food and Friends, where they definitely saw an increase in the number of families who were seeking out assistance from food banks who had never been before, but had to do that in order to survive and stay in place. And so, financially, DC came out in a really good spot. You add in the federal funding for that. And I'm really excited about what we were able to accomplish in this budget. I mean, millions of dollars for out of school time, millions of dollars invested in housing, millions of dollars we're doing for mental health school-based mental health, an alternative 911 system. I think a lot of what, at least my thinking and sort of going into this budget, was this is an opportunity for us not to just go back to doing the things that we were doing before. This is an opportunity for us to do better. I'm really excited about the investments we made in maternal health because, I've talked to you all about this. It's a really big issue for me. And so, yeah, there's something in this budget for everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you're 7 months in. And so, life must have changed a whole lot for you. How are you just, doing everything at this moment, the entire change, especially during such a transitionary period for everyone in the district, in the world, actually, and, you taking on this new job and, doing it like this. How has it been for you personally?
Well, I don't like to ever do anything simple. So new job in the middle of pandemic. I'm also having a baby. So
there.
Bam!
Congratulations.
Yeah, so it's been a whirlwind experience personally. I worked for the council, so it wasn't new. It is new being a council member on the other side. And what that's like, especially in a virtual environment, right?
Yeah.
We've not had a single in-person hearing.
Mm.
I don't think I've been in the room with all of my colleagues in person since I was sworn in.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen them all on Zoom. But have not seen them all physically. So it's a lot of transition, but it feels good. It feels really, really good.
Do you think you have any timeline on when that could possibly change?
Yeah, so I think we are going to come back in the fall, and I think that folks will transition to being more in person. But frankly, like I said, the pandemic, it definitely illuminated some things for us in terms of how to change community engagement to allow for more accessibility for people, right? So a lot more people have been able to participate in hearings and meetings like that because we have them online. Not a lot of people have the time and flexibility come down to the Wilson building, like testify at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, but they can take 5 minutes from their work and like do it on their phone or, jump online. And so I think that going forward, we're going to try to figure out a hybrid environment. If you want to come in person, come in person. But if you want to do something online, we need to make that available and accessible to you as well.
Certainly, certainly. And Councilmember, how can people follow and connect with you and keep up with all the things that you're doing?
Yes. So my website is ChristinaHendersonDC.com. And we post a lot of the issues and things like that we're working on, bills, press releases, etc. I'm also super active on social media, so you can follow me on Twitter at CMC Henderson, or Facebook or Instagram at Christina Henderson DC.
How about that? And being active on social media, that's how I found out you were pregnant. I saw you talking and meeting with the media, and I said, wait a minute. I think that's a little baby bump.
It's funny, actually, for some of my colleagues or some of the folks in the mayor's office who, slowly as we've gone to doing in-person events, they'll be like, I was like, yeah, because you only see from here up. You have no idea.
Exactly.
Well, may you have an easy birth. Do you know? Well, we're not going to ask you what you have because that's very personal. But when's your due date?
Next month.
Oh wow!
My goodness.
Yeah, y'all caught me on the upswing.
Wow!
Well, you look fabulous.
Thank you.
Glowing, beautiful.
Oh, you look so good to be due next month. I was like, wow. I was like, okay. All right, girl, do it. You look
good. Well, we are so glad that you could join us today. As per usual, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with us. To the viewers, the links to Councilmember Henderson's website will be in the descriptions below, as well as social media And if you want to make sure that you are registered to vote, you can text Team Rayceen to 40649. Once again, that's 40649. Thank you all for watching. Bye, everyone.